Public Q&A presents AskReddit question. What is the most epic moment in the history of cinema? The graveyard scene in The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. I have shown my kids a movie every Friday night since my oldest was 311 now, and that's our favorite. I can pull it up at any random time, and everyone will stop what they are doing and silently watch it. Eli Wallach as Tuco is the greatest anti-hero, and one of the greatest performances in film history. I haven't seen that since I was a kid. I remember loving it though. That music really stuck with me too. The self-destruct sequence in Alien. So many parts of Alien. Even the opening scene was compelling. And told so much story just on props alone. What really got me about the first film was the atmosphere with its lonely imagery and haunting music. It was the first movie that made me feel like you were really out there, very far away from home. In the opening part, I always get chills when they bring up the scanner, and you hear "This isn't our system." My wife loves that Ripley goes back for Jones. I went back and rewatched it. You can feel Ripley's dread when she realizes she fucked up the abort sequence. 12 Angry Men. Juror 3's breakdown leading to changing his vote. That's a good choice. Also the scene where one of the jurors goes off on a racist rant, and the others turn their backs on him. I love that movie. Listen to me. I have. Now sit down, and don't say anything else. And he doesn't say anything else for the rest of the movie. "I'll kill you, you don't really mean to kill me." Incredibly long but short pause, do ya? Camera pans in on his face as he realizes he was played like a violin, and the rest of the jurors get the point being made. This scene had me shook. I recently played him in my class production of the play. What gets me about it every single time is that for the whole film, he's just angry, but in this last monologue you see his frustration, his sorrow, his sheer anguish over his own son, and it casts him in a completely different light. Historically speaking, I think when everything is suddenly in color in The Wizard of Oz, after the first few scenes were in sepia. That technology was revolutionary for the time. Vox has a video about Technicolor and specifically how they made that scene. That scene made me gasp the first time I watched it, and every time I see it. It's such a beautiful transition into a different world. And visually, the colors are incredible and fantastical, and it's a beautiful moment. Imagine watching this movie for the first time on a black and white TV, and she walks through the door and nothing significant happens. I did. We had black and white until I was 17, and never saw it on anybody else's TV. I grew up thinking the whole thing was in color. I never knew about the shift until the first time I saw it in color all the way through. "Oh," I said. Edit. Thanks, glad everybody liked it. I love a big moment of realization. Were you confused why it was in black and white at first? I almost mentioned that. Oh, I always thought it was in color. Then, oh, you magnificent bastards. I can vaguely remember watching this on my granddad's old TV at the cottage. I thought his TV was black and white, and then suddenly it wasn't. Miso's dad was a troll. He told his kids during that scene. That's when color was invented. My dad grew up in the 40s and still talks about what a magical moment that was growing up. Wizard of Oz and Bambi are movies he has the most fond childhood memories of. The point where you're introduced to the dinosaurs of Jurassic Park. A turning point of CGI in movies alongside the amazing score. Still gives me goosebumps. Yeah, this might be the one. John Williams is a master, and those dinos looked incredible. The movie came out in 1993, and still looks amazing now. The only thing that ages it is the size of the computer monitors. It looks set in the 90s rather than filmed in the 90s. This scene makes me just cry. The moment they see the sauropod the first time is really beautiful, but then it's really the wide shot with all the dinosaurs and the score swelling that gets me. Regardless of how advanced CGI ever gets, nothing will ever beat that feeling. The Ents going to war, or when the elves arrive at Helm's Deep. That musical score. Man, Howard Shore killed it. Come, my friends. The Ents are going to war. It is likely that we go to our doom. The last march of the Ents. You know it's epic when ancient creatures who otherwise want to be left alone are willing to march to death for the greater good, all because of two small hobbits. The Rohirrim arriving in Gondor carries a similar weight. Treebeard's roar when he sees the forest cut down sends chills. Every single time. A wizard should know better. The end of the trilogy where everyone bows to the hobbits. Absolute chills. 12 Angry Men. Juror 8 puts Juror 3's coat on for him. It means so much in context with the rest of the movie, that just this small act of kindness can have that much of an impact on someone's life. It's really beautiful. The same movie, but the scene when the rain finally starts pouring after the heat thaw. I have felt that it is actually raining IRL the first time I saw the movie. Terminator 2 the hallway scene at the mall where Arnie says get down. The amazing thing about Terminator 2 is that every scene turns it up a notch from the one before. Imagine watching that scene for the first time, not knowing Arnie's the good guy. Those trailers spoiled what could have been one of the best reveals of all time. I had this moment. I watched it a few weeks ago for the first time, with only vague pop culture knowledge. I imagined that one of them wanted to help, but I thought it was the other guy. The shotgun in the flowers was neat. So was discovering the actual context of the famous lines I knew only from references. The multiplane camera 3D effect in Snow White. Revolutionary. And this was all drawn and painted by hand. To add on to that, I'd say the scene where the dwarves are mourning at the end of the film is one of the most revolutionary and important movie scenes to exist. It was essentially the first time a dramatic and sad scene existed in the medium of animation that wasn't played for slapstick or humor. On top of that, you really feel it when Grumpy starts crying because of how his character was set up earlier in the film. The Flight of the Valkyries scene from Apocalypse Now. Kilgore's Air Cavalry taking Charlie's point. Charlie don't surf. Charlie Chaplin final speech from the great dictator. For me, what makes this moment so legendary is the fact that sound in cinema was implemented around 1927. When this movie came out in 1940, it was the first time that Chaplin spoke in his films. During those 13 years in between, he kept making silent movies, or never spoke in them. So when Chaplin decided to speak in his films, it wasn't because of technological advancement, it was because he had a message to spread. If what one has to say is not better than silence, then one should keep silent. Confucius. George punching Biff. George punching Biff. George kissing Lorraine and saving Marty from non-existence. Marty successfully returning to 1985, just as Doc hooks up the lightning cable. The Doc reveals he was wearing a bulletproof vest. Roads. Where we're going, we don't need roads. The DeLorean fucking flies into the camera. The end. The whole end of the movie is one air punch moment after another. When the shooting stops in Children of Men. The soldier on the staircase sells that scene for me. He's first pointing his rifle at them and goes from pure aggression to stunned amazement, and then desperately calling for a ceasefire, all in literally a second or two. It was the only scene in the movie that albeit temporarily broke down the barrier between oppressor and oppressed, and highlighted that everyone was in it together. For a short time the relentless tension, anxiety and paranoia that had characterized the movie so far eased off a bit, and let shared humanity take center stage. It almost literally felt like a breath of fresh air. I love Children of Man. That whole shootout scene in that flat is my favorite scene, and when the shooting stops is my favorite part of that scene. Seriously, that movie is a fucking masterpiece. I have watched it like a dozen times. Everybody who reads this comment and hasn't seen Children of Men, add it to your watch list. It's an amazing film. Shawshank Redemption. The way it is hyped that Andy might have committed suicide, it's raining, it's thunderous, he doesn't come out the next day. And then, we find out that he actually escaped. If we're talking Shawshank, Brooks was here. Damn, that got me crying like a little baby. I still cry at that part, especially before when Brooks is narrating his goodbye letter, and hopes his pet bird is enjoying life, and that he hopes hell run into him when waking through the park. The world went and got itself in a damn hurry. Smile, you son of a. I like this one. Always eagerly anticipated it on subsequent viewings. Get away from her, you bitch. Ellen Ripley to the Queen Alien. Smashed it. Edit. Corrected character name. Hey Vasquez, ever been mistaken for a man? No, have you? LOL. Game over, man. Game over. So many fucking quotable lines. I like to keep this handy. For close encounters. How do I get out of this chicken shit outfit? You always were an asshole, Gorman. They're coming out of the walls. They're coming out of the goddamn walls. We got nukes, we got knives, sharp sticks. Well, what are we supposed to use? Harsh language. They mostly come out at night. Mostly. I might have seen this film a few times. Pretty much every single line from that film is a belter. I may be synthetic, but I am not stupid. Eat this. We're in the pipe, 5 by 5. And a personal favorite. What do you mean they cut the power? How could they cut the power, man? They're animals. God rest the immaculate soul of Bill Paxton. Gladiator. Russell Crowe revealing himself as Maximus to Commodus in the arena was pretty legit. Phoenix did a remarkable job of looking like he just shat his soul out. Phoenix was incredible in Joker, but I loved his Gladiator performance even more. He nailed that role so well I hated him for years after Gladiator. I love how tense that scene is and how much anticipation has been built up, and how tense the scene continues after he tells him he's Maximus. My name is Maximus Decimus Meridius, commander of the armies of the North, general of the Felix legions, and loyal servant to the true emperor, Marcus Aurelius. Father to a murdered son. Husband to a murdered wife. And I will have my vengeance, in this life or the next. Payoff was legit. Gladiator itself was an epic moment. You shall not pass. Ian McKellen, in my opinion, is the reason there can't ever really be another adaptation of Lord of the Rings. Those films are full of great performances and excellent interpretations of the characters, but he is the definitive Gandalf. And Christopher Lee as Saruman was such a perfect counterpart to him. The interplay between them was just incredible and showed Gandalf's character development and newfound strength or confidence so well. Christopher Lee was always so charismatic, yet unnerving. He was the perfect choice to play Saruman. The opening of Saving Private Ryan. Edit. Here it is. Probably the most effective part of that scene is at the very beginning. The camera holds on several faces aboard the landing craft, leading the audience to believe these would be the protagonists, the main cast members. Then you see one of them get nailed right in the forehead by enemy fire as soon as the doors open. Now you don't know who is going to live or die, except for maybe Tom Hanks. Except Tom Hanks, LOL. No way they hired Tom Hanks to die within the first 10 minutes of the film. Aim for the bushes. There wasn't even an awning or anything. I really like the little details, like the 2 Czech soldiers the American execute. Must have watched the film 10 times over before even finding out about it. Yes. Not many people got this. I didn't. The soldiers put their hands up and say something in Czech like, "We're not German, we're Czech." The end would qualify as well. I still can't watch the scene in the attic. I watched SPR for the first time a few weeks ago. At the end, when the tanks were rolling into town, and the sniper was signaling from the bell tower, I was legitimately terrified. Somehow Spielberg made me feel like I was right there, hunkering down to fend off heavily armored panzers. It was unlike anything I have ever experienced in cinema. Oskar Schindler, at the end of the film, realizing that he could have saved more Jews, and Itzhak Stern and others telling him he who saves a single life, saves the world entire. The whole scene of him counting how many more people he could have saved if he just sold this and that. So heartbreaking. Actually makes me tear up only remembering it. I always blub at the end credits, when the survivors place stones on his grave. Gets me every time. Barbara Billingsley speaking jive. And Kareem Abdul-Jabbar arguing about how he's not Kareem. And the autopilot. Ted Stryker's drinking problem. I think you're the greatest, but my dad says you don't work hard enough on defense. And he says that lots of times, you don't even run down court. And that you don't really try. Except during the playoffs. Cut me some slack, Jack. Chump don't want no help, chump don't get no help. The whole movie is fucking gold. 2 moments immediately come to mind, both from Lord of the Rings. For Frodo, the charge at the Black Gate. Such an awesome culmination of everything the Fellowship has been through. Seeing Merry and Pippin charge ahead of everybody else before they're quickly overtaken by those with longer legs, haha. The ride of the Rohirrim. Everything about that scene is incredible. The whole scene following the destruction of the ring will always be pure magic to me. Sauron's tower is crumbling, everyone is celebrating, and then MT Doom decides to join in the celebration by blowing up, and everyone realizes Frodo and Sam are probably still inside. My favorite shot of the whole series is the one with the fell beasts getting pummeled by meteors. Because it's a shot of bittersweet celebration. You're forced to reckon with unlikely celebration at the same time as sudden loss. Web address. We haven't the facilities to accept your surrender from a bridge too far. It helps that it actually happened. Litter the ride of the Rohirrim. Arise, riders of Theoden. Spears shall be shaken. Shields shall be splintered. A sword day, a red day, ere the sun rises. Fuck, I got goosebumps from reading your comment. I like the charge at Helm's Deep myself. Theoden King stands alone. I would go with a more subtle moment. Frodo. I wish none of this had happened. Gandalf. So do all who live to see such times. But that is not for them to decide. All we have to do is decide what to do with the time that is given to us. There are other forces at work in this world than those of evil. I can't think of a more comforting moment in cinema history. When Andy crawls out of the sewage pipe and stands in the rain. I prefer the moment when and right after the warden throws the rock at the poster. Chills. I'd like to think that the last thing that went through the warden's mind other than that bullet was how the hell Andy Dufresne got the better of him. Oh lordy, it's a miracle. A man up and vanished like a fart in the wind. What does Marcellus Wallace look like? Does he look like a bitch? What? Does he look like a bitch? No. Then why you trying to fuck him like a bitch? Marcellus Wallace don't like be fucked by anyone else except Mrs. Wallace. What? Say what again? What? Bang. The end of Jurassic Park when the T-Rex slams the velociraptor into the bones and then roars while the banner falls down. So epic and gives me chills every time. All-time favorite movie. The first T-Rex scene in the rain is so incredible. Looks better than most modern movies, absolutely insane how they pulled it off. Fun fact. They blew half the movie's budget on the Trek's animatronic. Would you say they spared no expense? Worth it. I love that movie so much. I think the book is even better, but the movie is still one of the greatest things I have ever seen. I still remember the first time I watched it as a 4-year-old dinosaur fanatic when it came out on VHS in 1994. One of my earliest memories. The feeling I got watching it has never entirely left me. I was 9 when I watched the original in cinema. Naturally, I would been Dino obsessed for a number of years prior and well beyond. Would have been 2 to 3 years later that I first read the book multiple times repeated, since and I do agree with you. Also just a few months ago I listened through the audiobook version for the first time, which I thoroughly enjoyed as well. You maniacs. You blew it up. Aw, damn you. God damn you all to hell. That bit when all of the elevators open in cabin in the woods. Swear to God, I spot something new each time. Plot twist. Something new is actually added every time you watch it due to the fourth wall-breaking powers of Kevin TM. The opening of Star Wars, IMO. It's hard to impress upon anyone how amazing that Star Destroyer flying over your head for what seemed like forever felt like at the time. I was 7 when I saw it, and it blew my mind. The final trench run made me literally sit on the edge of my seat involuntarily, and I felt feelings of adrenaline I simply did not know a human could feel. I wish I had been alive back in '77, 15 years too early for me lol, just so I could have experienced that in theaters for the first time. I have been a Star Wars nut as long as I can remember lol, so I have always known who Vader is and whatever, but I would love to know what it would have been like the first time people saw him, and what they thought. So I was 6 when New Hope hit the cinemas. I would grown up on the occasional Star Trek, Space. 1999, Doctor Who and UFO episode on TV, and old sci-fi movies where you could sometimes literally see the strings. My uncle was down on holidays after Christmas, and he and my dad took us to see it. The theater is gone, but I still remember we sat in the mezzanine level. The opening crawl and music was cool, then explosions and a big ship races past, awesome. Then the Star Destroyer. The way it filled the screen and just kept going and going and going. It was the most amazing thing I would ever seen. I was an instant fan and remained that way to this day. I don't think it's too much of a stretch to say it was life-changing, in that it made me into a huge SF fan, and that had its own follow-on effects on my interests, hobbies, etc. I have seen every Star Wars film at the cinema on release, and now I get to take my kids to them as well. Yep, I was 9. And the way the Star Destroyer filled the screen was amazing. The big ship changed sci-fi movies. One thing that Star Wars and Alien did was show space as gritty, where amazing tech is just everyday normal stuff. Sure, a hovering speeder, why not? The way that the droids were traded like used cars instead of incredible sentient robots. Previously it was all clean and nice, Star Trek, Space 1999, etc. And Alien with the Sulaco as just some working man's mining ship instead of a frickin' space ship. Especially the Falcon and Rebel ships looking like they had been kicked around a football field. Made the world feel lived in and real. Luke's speeder looked like any old farm junker that a local kid kept running through spit, determination and fencing wire. With the music, it was a turning point for audiences and the industry. The angels coming out of the Ark of the Covenant looking beautiful and sublime, but turning into terrifying beings that burn the Nazis to death in Raiders of the Lost Ark. Because the Nazis are evil. Edit. I think it's meaningful how Belloc shouts beautiful. And seems to think this is the greatest thing, and the whole movie he's been a self-assured asshole. Luck has always been on his side, so why shouldn't God? Then these divine beings, whose innocent faces are literally staring into his, they change into monstrous horrors that kill them and drag their souls away. The Nazis thought that by killing, cleansing and conquering and elevating their own supremacy, they were doing the right thing, and were the finest people who had ever lived. And it seemed for some time they were going to be successful, and they knew that. And then they lost. Their legacy was really only to become synonymous with the greatest evil imaginable, and to me the whole scene is symbolic of that. In Planet of the Apes, when Caesar spoke for the first time, we know, canonically, that the apes speak in Pada. And yet, when Caesar yells that no, somehow we are as shocked as the keeper. The film has lulled us into a false sense of security. I love the scene in Dawn when Caesar and all the apes rock up the human settlement, and they see him talk for the first time. Just the shock on their faces when they realize these beasts are intelligent. I saw this in a movie theater and everybody flipped out. Horse's head in GF1. While a fake head was used during rehearsals, Coppola swapped it with a real one for the actual shot, meaning the screams you hear from actor John Marley were absolutely genuine. According to Time, the crew located a horse ready for slaughter at a New Jersey dog food plant that looked like the one in the movie. The art director told the plant, "When that one is slaughtered, send us the head." Web address. A horse at the what now? Gandalf arriving at Helm's Deep, and the aftermath of that moment. The entire first scene of The Dark Knight. The bank scene. No, I killed the bus driver. Bus driver? What bus driver? Pretty much each scene with the Joker in it. The scene where the truck flips made my jaw drop. It's back in theaters for Cinemark's private watch parties, and I can't wait to go see it in theaters again. Inigo Montoya. Hello, my name is Inigo Montoya. You killed my father. Prepare to die. The two fight for a moment, then pause. Inigo Montoya. Hello, my name is Inigo Montoya. You killed my father. Prepare to die. Count Ruggin. Stop saying that. More fighting ensues. Inigo gains the upper hand. Inigo Montoya. Yelling hello. My name is Inigo Montoya. You killed my father. Prepare Toady. Count Ruggin. No. Inigo slices Ruggin's cheek. Inigo Montoya. Now. Offer me money. Count Ruggin. Yes. Inigo Montoya. Inigo slices the other cheek. Power too. Promise me that. Count Ruggin. All that I have and more. Please. Inigo Montoya steps back and gestures dramatically. Offer me everything I ask for. Count Ruggin. Anything you want. Ruggin takes another lunge at Inigo. Inigo parries and stabs Ruggin through the stomach. Inigo Montoya. I want my father back, you son of a bitch. Thrusts his sword into Ruggin, then pulls it back out, leaving him to die. I love that in the movie, he gives Count Ruggin the same wounds Ruggin gave him. It's so fitting. Better than the same scene in the book. If you didn't know, in the book he does all the above, and then cuts around his heart. Indigo makes a very deep cut, and says that was just left of your heart. Indigo cuts again and asks, that was just to the right of your heart, do you know what I am doing? The Count correctly answers, you're cutting my heart out. Indigo cuts again. That was just below your heart. And the Count dies of fear. Mandy Patinkin has said that when he was filming that scene, he thought of his own father who had died of cancer. He shot it imagining that the six-fingered man was the cancer that took his father from him. The emotion of that scene feels raw and real because it was. The moment Rohan arrives at Minas Tirith, Theoden sees the great city burning with massed dark troops surrounding it on all sides, the last bastion of humanity laid low and broken. And then the riders muster and charge the orcs in the most powerful and moving charge ever set to film. When you see the orcs panicking as the horsemen approach, their bravado reduced to terror. It's amazing. My favorite soundbite from any movie is the second before your scene. Gondor is basically smoked, and then the horns of the Rohirrim sing out. That sound gives me the chills every time. As the good guys, depending on whose side you take, that sound means hope, even a minuscule breath of relief. For the bad guys, it means shit's about go hard. I loved that scene. I honestly wish they showed a lot more of the battle on the field involving the horse charge. I wasn't huge on the Oliphant scenes, and the Army of the Dead scene never did it for me either. In rode the Lord of the Nazgul. A great black shape against the fires beyond he loomed up, grown to a vast menace of despair. In rode the Lord of the Nazgul, under the archway that no enemy ever yet had passed, and all fled before his face. All save one. There waiting, silent and still in the space before the gate, sat Gandalf upon Shadowfax. Shadowfax, who alone among the free horses of the earth endured the terror, unmoving, steadfast as a graven image in Rath Dynan. You cannot enter here, said Gandalf, and the huge shadow halted. Go back to the abyss prepared for you. Go back. Fall into the nothingness that awaits you and your master. Go. The Black Rider flung back his hood, and behold, he had a kingly crown, and yet upon no head visible was it set. The red fires shone between it and the mantled shoulders vast and dark. From a mouth unseen there came a deadly laughter. Old fool, he said. Old fool. This is my hour. Do you not know death when you see it? Die now and curse in vain. And with that he lifted high his sword, and flames ran down the blade. And in that very moment, away behind in some courtyard of the city, a cock crowed. Shrill and clear he crowed, recking nothing of war nor of wizardry, welcoming only the morning that in the sky far above the shadows of death was coming with the dawn. And as if in answer there came from far away another note. Horns, 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 in dark Mindalluin's sides they dimly echoed. Great horns of the north wildly blowing. Rohan had come at last. Jesus. I have been meaning to read the books for a long time, but I had no idea the writing was this beautiful. I absolutely must make time. Tolkien is a master at evocative prose. The way he describes the landscapes on the journey, you can smell the spring breezes of the Shire and feel the clammy clouds of Mordor. I have never had another author make his world feel so real. I was still a kid when my father took me to see the first movie, and I hadn't read the books. When we left the cinema, he was almost dumbfounded. He just said, it was exactly the way I would imagined it. Arise, arise, riders of Theoden. Spear shall be shaken, shield shall be splintered, a sword day, a red day, ere the sun rises. Ride now, ride now, ride. Ride for ruin and the world's ending. Death. 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 A sword day, a red day, ere the sun rises. Ride for wrath, ride for ruin. And the world's ending. Death. Chills. Seconded. Return of the King is nothing but epic scene after epic scene. The Legolas or elephant fight, Aragorn coming with the army of the dead, the Witch King fight, the fight at the gates or Mordor, the destruction of the ring, and you bow to no one. Duwuadi. How fucking dare you not mention Sam picking up Frodo on Mount Doom? I tear up every single time. I can't carry it for you, but I can carry you and it as well. So up you get. Come on, Mr. Frodo dear. I say this to my pregnant wife, when she get embarrassed and has to ask for help with something. I can't carry the baby, but I can carry you. I can't carry it, but I can carry you. Ugh, instant tears. The Rohirrim charge across Pelennor Fields was indeed one of the most epic in cinematic history, but for my money, the more visually stunning, and epically charged moment was also in the LOTR series, but when Gandalf and Eomer arrive at the Battle of Helm's Deep, and their charge downhill against the Uruk-hai with the blinding sun at their backs takes my breath away just thinking about it. Similarly. Hey Cap, do you read me? Cap, it's Sam. Can you hear me? On your left. That moment when the head orc's face just drops when he realizes that yes, that mass of horses is indeed going to reach your army and go right through it. It's brilliant. The sound in those moments is so damn good. Just a solid wall of horse and steel crashing into a mass of bodies, and you just hear how devastating the charge is. Jurassic Park when they first see the dinosaurs. We're going to need a bigger boat. I am your father's Star Wars. He told me you killed him. The first time Keanu Reeves said guns, lots of guns, and whatever happened afterwards. If it's the Matrix, it's got to be bullet time. That scene had jaws on the floor. The Millennium Falcon coming out of the sun to cover Luke as he destroyed the Death Star. This isn't the greatest moment in cinematic history, but it is the one that sticks out the most for me. Lion King 1994 when Simba is making his way up Pride Rock after defeating Scar and the hyenas. Incredibly powerful moment, and I still get goosebumps every time I watch that scene. On a side note, I still believe that Lion King is Hans Zimmer's best score by far, even with everything he's done since the release of that movie. Yes. I have probably seen this movie 100 plus times over the past 20 years, and I still get choked up when this happens. It's perfectly done and very powerful. Listen. I know Shrek is a meme and shit, but I will not let you take the entire I Need a Hero sequence from Shrek 2 away from me. That shit was fire. Be good. Memes aside, Shrek 2 was a pretty good movie with some great jokes. You could say. It's a perfect sequel. That's what I would say if I were a mythical coconut crab. The first two Shrek movies are gold mines for memes because of how much they stick in our minds despite their absurdity. I can't think of another movie that's as well suited to all ages as Shrek that is both so bizarre and so relatable. Every moment of those movies was scripted, as if the writers put all of their intrusive thoughts onto paper. They don't even have dental that one Harold just jamming out on his horn, the Dulakians, the medieval WWE, all of it was just barely connected enough to be coherent. And it all worked excellently. They are also reference Gold Mines 1 and 2 remind me heavily of seasons 1 to 8 of The Simpsons in that regard. So packed full of jokes and references, they are immediately relatable and unstandable on so many different levels to so many different age groups. That is their greatest strength, writing something that anybody can enjoy. The best part about Shrek is it was supposed to be a low-budget film, and all the animators were ones who were banished from other films for doing a shitty job. This happens a lot in animation. Another example is Pocahontas vs. The Lion King. Pocahontas was their big, epic, Oscar bait movie, and Lion King was the one the B-team animators kept getting banished to. Jennifer Saunders' cover is iconic. LOL, they writing THR gingerbread man. Shit's fire. No, not the gumdrop button. Giant gingerbread man falls dramatically into a moat. I still feel that entire scene in my soul. The Prestige, when it's revealed that Angier's rival has actually been twins the entire time. Edit to hide the spoiler, even though this movie is from 2008, and no one has a good excuse for not seeing it. The concept of one man going so far as to discover and employ real magic just because he is so competitive and curious that he can't stand the thought of magic existing without his knowledge of how it works is such a tragic story. The shit that magician does and the amount of his own humanity he sacrifices in order to, because everything that a true magician is in essence is perfect. And they also somehow wove Kaistian Ballet characters into it, and tied of both of those characters' arcs beautifully. That movie is so perfect. And Bowie. Wow. You are still with us. Thanks for being such a nice person. As long as you are here, why not like this video and subscribe to our channel? Also, you can press the bell icon, so you won't miss any future uploads.